Ryan Carson, welcome to the show.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Man, it's been a while. Last time we saw each other was in New York.
I know. Feels like a lifetime ago already.
The market was quite different back then.
Yeah, gosh, it was. And it was different on last Saturday, and it's going to be different next Saturday, and it's going to be a wild ride, that's for sure.
Question I have for you, how do you stay level-headed with all the FUD going around? Do you have some tips to give us?
Yes. Invest for the long term. I'll tell you, I don't want to make light of the current situation. I think, there's a lot of good people that are losing a lot of money. And that's scary and painful. And it's not to be taken lightly. But honestly, when the market started crashing, I just wasn't concerned personally. I've been investing for years and years and years in tech stocks. And I've always had a very simple investing strategy, which is buy what you know and buy what you believe in. And when I was lucky enough to buy a Tesla back in 2014, as soon as I drove it for a while, I was like, I'm buying some Tesla stock, just because this product is going to change the world. No one is more committed and bonkers than Elon Musk. So let's buy Tesla. So I, bought a bunch of Tesla, and it's been one of the best investments I've ever made. And I've held it all through the craziness,
Yep.
I mean, I still hold it, and it's way down right now, and I'm still going to hold it. And I literally lose no sleep over that. And
I guess it's the fact, are you coming at it from a day-to-day trading perspective, or are you really looking long-term?
Long-term. I'm not exactly. A trader at all. And people aren't considering capital gains either. I mean, you really have to know what you're doing when it comes to short-term and long-term cap gains. And unless you really know what you're doing in trading, you're going to end up losing a lot of money and probably damaging your mental health permanently. So NFTs, same strategy, long-term.
Speaking about mental health, I saw in one of the tweets that you put out recently, you deleted Discord from your phone.
Yeah, I've never been happier. I love Discord. So those that don't know who I am, I was the COO of Proof and Moonbirds, and was 110% involved in building the community of Proof, and I love it, and I loved it, and I still love it. And so I was on Discord. Probably.
You were on there a lot.
Probably 14 hours a day.
Yeah.
And I loved it, but it started to, mess with my family life and my personal life and my happiness, and decided, now I have a work phone and a home phone, and the work phone has Twitter and Discord and, all an email. And then my home phone has none of that. And I literally turn off my work phone at 5 p.m. now every day. And it's hard at first. I sort of felt lost at first when I did that. And now I'm settling into having time to think and process, and it's a good thing.
Was that something you really recently thought about and it was implemented really quickly, or it was something that was ongoing that maybe your family kind of talked to you about for a while and then it's only after?
My wife definitely talked to me, and she said, I don't think this is going to go well. We've been married 18 years, so we're very much in love and have a great relationship. But she sort of said, if you're just going to work all the time, what is the point? And I said, you're right. I can't seem to stop myself from checking email or Twitter or Discord if I have my phone on me. And I said, I'm just literally going to go to Verizon today, and I'm going to buy another phone. And did it that day, and just kind of went cold turkey. And so far it's working.
I'm happy to hear that. I think a lot of people would want to have the discipline to make a move, like a cold turkey move like that, but it's kind of hard. When you're used to something, your habits are, it's like at first you make your habits and then your habits make you. And I think that's exactly what it is with the phone, right? Like at first you check it because, well, maybe you want to stay updated with Discord or Twitter or whatnot. And then eventually you're the one reacting to all those things.
Right. And it ends up taking a lot of your mental space. And then you can get really affected by things, a lot of people didn't understand why I stepped down from Moonbirds and Proof. And I got a lot of flack on Twitter, and, it's hard not to let that affect you. And so if it's the evening or the weekend and you're reading this stuff, even if it's not based on facts, it still affects you. And I'm just a person, and I have feelings and thoughts, and those things are very hard. So I've decided I need to compartmentalize my life a little bit.
Did the meditation aspect like really help with that too?
It did. Yeah. So I started meditating at the end of last year, actually because of Kevin. So Kevin has always been into meditation, and, he started Oak, the meditation app. And I had played around with meditation, but never was able to commit. And I thought, I really think this would be helpful. I'm going to try to commit. And so I just started doing the Headspace app once a day. And I've been able to stick with it. And it's really fascinating to begin to observe your thoughts and your feelings instead of experience them. And it's been good. Yeah, I feel like it's almost like flossing my teeth, but for my brain. So
that's interesting.
Yeah. And it's not at all like America is all about like, self-help and pull yourself up by your bootstraps, but it's not that at all. It's more about accepting.
It's a lot more a process of unlearning and letting go than like tightening up and trying to get at something. Yeah.
It's almost like learning to not think is so hard and is very anti-intuitive for, I think, Western, folks like me. So it's been great, and it hasn't fixed everything. I'm not like a new man and, wake up, everything's better, but it's, I can tell it's a practice that if I can keep it going till I die, I think my life will be a lot better.
I think like we have stages in life where I'm sure maybe younger Ryan Carson, like that was super hungry at like building something. I don't know if he would have carved out the time of the day to like sit down for,
Probably not. I used to be, you're right. You go through phases. Like I went through my Gary Vee phase, where I woke up at, 3:30 every day and worked out. I ran Spartan races and that was good, to kind of learn how to work hard and grind through things. But then, you just grow and you mature, and you have a different phase. And then now, you just realize that, your life is short. And we actually go on a walk all the time. There's a cemetery close to my house, and it's just beautiful. It's like right on the water. And every time you go there, you're just reminded that you're going to end up, in the dirt like everybody else. And it's important to keep things in perspective. And you kind of realize no one's really going to remember your name. And probably your grandkids won't even know who you are. So it's more about, how can I build my relationships now and do something meaningful that I care about, but also realize like probably everything you do isn't really going to matter. It's this both.
It's like the dichotomy of life.
Yeah.
It's so meaningful, but so meaningless at the same time.
At the same time. It's wild.
But I guess that's what also allows you to, obviously tackle it head on, but not take anything really seriously.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times like people think, on my legacy and that, and it's like, yes, of course, on one side you want to have that ambition, but on the other side, it's also like you realize that you're nothing in the scope of the bigger things.
Right. You're just a little speck in the universe, and that's okay.
Just to circle it back to your beginnings, because I know you mentioned like you had your hustling entrepreneur, like, working maybe like 16 hours, 17, 18 hours a day. And I know you used to throw some of the biggest conferences in Web2 with Carsonified. What are you excited about to see develop in the Web3 space in terms of IRL or events or conferences?
Yeah, there's so many exciting things that are going to happen. I think Proof of Conference in 2023 is going to be amazing. And I think we'll see more conferences like that where, we're going to start decoupling I think we're actually going to see a merging of our online personas and our IRL personas. And I think that's a good thing. And so I'm excited about that. I understand anonymity and the need for it sometimes. I think it's very valid, if you are from a group that's been historically held down, to be anonymous sometimes. I think that's actually valuable and important, but if you're starting a project, I think it's important to be fully doxed. And then I think seeing the space mature and seeing people meet each other in real life and have, Zoom calls or meet at a bar and chat and get to know each other and network, I think that's good. And we'll actually see the whole space get lifted up as we build real relationships in real life. I mean, we met, at the first proof meetup in New York City, or the second, the third. We met twice, right? At the first and second. Mm-hmm. And that was good. I mean, I feel like we have a real relationship now because we've actually met, and the space needs more of that.
Yeah, I think it's hard to move away from the DNA of a human being, which is like we've been hardwired for so long to like connect with people, like looking at people's face, and like we read all the emotional cues that there's no way we will read in a tweet or in like even sometimes like this is the closest we get, but eventually I think it's going to become like way crazier, like making all these like online phone calls, like a Zoom call. It's going to feel like you're actually there, right? But,
exactly. Yeah. And this is a good thing. So I think IRLs is important. I think anyone who is newer to business, is going to learn that the best business decisions you can ever make are to meet people in real life and build real relationships. That's it.
Can I interject? Because you mentioned something that I kind of caught up. It was like in an interview you did with Kevin Rose, but way back then when he was doing like these podcasts and you guys were sitting down together.
Yeah,
and you were saying like, one of the reasons why you kind of threw these conferences too is because like of the fact that you were suddenly like the center point from where each of these relationships stems from. So you were able to like, obviously like get a lot of ROI from that. And I think like everything that comes from life is about relationships.
100%. Yeah. Everything good that's ever going to happen to us is going to be because of other humans we know, period. So it's important to curate that and grow that and offer value to other people. And then, it's almost like karma. It'll come back somehow. I mean, the whole reason I ended up being the COO of Proof is because Kevin and I met at one of my conferences, and I offered him value by putting him on stage at a big conference. He offered me value by speaking at my conference, and so it's about helping each other. And you want to do business with people you like. I mean, why did I come on this podcast? Because I like you. I mean, it's
thank you. I feel flattered.
Well, that's how the world works, and so
of course,
IRL is really important for building your career.
Side note, that was a really fun time in New York. Those at the after parties and everything.
Oh, yeah, that's where it all happens.
Any tips on, because obviously like you've invited a lot of speakers on stage when you were running like Carsonified. Any tips you've learned over the years to be a better public speaker or host?
You have to be really tuned into, you have to be very empathetic. If you're empathetic, you can achieve a lot. And so I always kind of laugh at myself when I say this, but probably the best book I've ever read is How to Win Friends and Influence People. And my mom gave me that book and said, hey, read this book. And I think if you can really tune in to how other people are feeling and what other people need, then doors just open up. You'd be surprised. Like, just encourage everybody who's listening, just try this. Next time you sit down with somebody, let them do all the talking. And this is weird because normally I'd be asking you questions and I'd be listening. And but
I see you doing that on Twitter Spaces too. It's like you're the guest, and then you end up interviewing the host.
Yeah, because everybody wants to talk about themselves. It's just a very human thing, and so let other people talk about themselves. So, and it ends up being more fun anyway. You get to hear people's stories, you get to know them better, and it's funny if you sit down with somebody and you ask them meaningful questions and you care about the response. You actually are engaged. They'll walk away from that meeting going, wow, Ryan's really nice. And if they don't actually know anything about Ryan.
It makes me remember that quote that says, what was it? Like, people don't care how much you know, they people don't care about how much you know until they know about how much you care.
Yeah, 100%. And deep down, we all want to survive and we care about our own lives. And so let people talk about that. That's how to be a great host. And then, what will happen is as you offer true value and you help other people and you care, then eventually doors open up. And that's why I've ended up where I am today.
And you kind of like took some leaps over time, right? And I think the first leap that you really took was like moving away from, if I'm right, like from Colorado, where you used to live. So kind of walk us through that. Like what made you at that time as a small kid that lived there, that didn't really travel? Like what made you just go like, F this and like, let's move to London.
So it was interesting because I was going to Colorado State University and studying computer science. I had spent my whole life in Colorado. I didn't own a passport, and my parents got divorced. And I think as they were going through the divorce, I also started to lose my faith. I used to be a very serious evangelical Christian, and so my faith was starting to get shook because it's like my parents were getting divorced, and everything I believed, I was seeing holes in it. And I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to get out of here. And I'm going to go live somewhere else for a year and just like see what happens. And honestly, I got the idea of London because I watched Notting Hill. Which is this
great movie,
hilarious rom-com. It's super cheesy. I love it. I love rom-coms. And so I was like, screw this. I'm just going to move somewhere. And I'm very good at taking risks because I think it's because I was raised in an environment where I was safe. And so I taking risks was never too scary. And so I thought, I was like, what's the worst that can happen? I mean, I'll have to come home and I can get a job, it's fine. And so just bought a plane ticket. And my mom was sobbing when she dropped me off at the airport. And I was like, why are you crying? Like, I'm going to come back. And she said, you're going to meet a girl and you're never going to come back. And I was like, whatever, Mom, I'll be back. Well, I ended up being in the UK for 12 years, getting married, having kids, starting companies. And I never did come back. I ended up moving to Portland, Oregon after that. And then, now I'm in Connecticut. So my mom was right.
Wow. Insane story. Yeah. You can't really say like where life will take you.
No.
And that's why like you never know until you take the leap. I guess like one of the things that I always try to keep in my mind is try different things, experiment, right? Because you could move technically somewhere now and that could completely change the course of your life.
Yep. Mental elasticity is very important. Like I hold opinions strongly but loosely, right? So as soon as you change my mind with facts, like I'm down.
What's something that you had to reevaluate in the past month or two?
So many things. Yeah. I mean, I would say, reevaluating my position at Proof, right? When I joined Proof, Kevin and Justin, I thought it'd be a 3-year project and we would work hard and it would be straightforward. And we never imagined that we would create, what looks like it's going to be the biggest project in the world. And I think of reevaluating that and saying, oh, wait, well, is that what I want? Is this what Proof needs? I think I'd actually be happier running my own venture fund, like being willing to admit what makes you happy. Because everybody was like, you're crazy for leaving Proof. Like, why would you leave this rocket ship? And it's like, because I know myself and I know what's right for Proof and I know what's right for me. And so being willing to make those hard decisions is hard, but I changed my mind on that. And
I think like coming from someone that was like inside of the Proof Discord from day one, and we actually chatted like pretty early on, I think nobody really envisioned Proof becoming what it is.
No.
It's so funny because if you look at Proof back then, like when we had that first kind of, how did we call that? Like a town hall inside the Discord.
Oh yeah, we did.
Yeah, it was like, I think it was like on January 1st, we had this town hall and there were like maybe 150 people or like something like that showed up, and we didn't know we were going on this wild ride, right?
No clue.
And I think it's so easy in this space, especially in the NFT space, because so many things are happening at once and projects move so quickly that you can just come into a project and have this perception that like, oh, it was always like this, right? I think it was the same thing with Moonbirds. I think when people saw Moonbirds doing very well, they thought Proof was like that from the get, which is really not what it is. Like accelerated 1,000 times.
I think as well, the key thing about Proof was that it was a real community. And, you know, Kevin was a charismatic, legitimate founder with a real community. So he built his following, you know, for over a decade, right? Podcasting, speaking, building companies, investing, you know, and doing podcasts with Tim and his own podcasts and podcasts with me and, you know, to put in the work. And so we walked into this community going, we all didn't know it was going to be, but we knew it was going to be good. Right. And then, you know, that's why I wanted to join. I'm like, this is fun. Like, this is a healthy, good community. I like building community. I can do this. You know, Kevin's busy full-time at True. Like, I can come in and boot this thing up for him and Justin. And we were all in there being genuine and real. And I think that's what makes a good foundation for a project. Authenticity, doxed founders, real community. And then you can build on top of that. Right. Mm-hmm. You know, like we're seeing projects fall apart right now and it's sad and terrible to see. And the reason why is, and you look back and like, oh, there's no foundation. There's no real community there. Like everyone in that community is there because they like money.
Yeah.
And that's never going to work. Right.
That's one of the things that was so interesting with Proof is that, you know, at that time, I think that was the second NFT I got. And like, it was substantial money, right? Like, cause let's say at that amount, like, how am I justifying being part of something for like I don't know, 10,000, like 10 grand or whatever, and like you get in, and then eventually it was never about the money; it was more about the community. I thought it was super cool that we had, you know, not only access to Kevin, but to you, to Justin, and to all these people that were art collectors, pretty much, and it was like this kind of little group where you could manage the conversations too, because it was only 1,000 people.
I know. I think that's key is the Discord has been manageable and private. I had the same conversation with my wife. I was like, okay, I'm thinking about minting this NFT and it's 5 ETH. And, you know, it's like $15,000. And you're kind of going, well, that's bonkers. You know, it's an online club and like, what, you know? So, and, you know, I don't think in dollars anymore. I think in ETH, but I had the same conversation. But then I thought, you know, it's good to have some barrier because in a way it filters out folks who are there for the wrong reasons. Right. And I think, the community was very genuine, and I loved how people would share like pictures of where they were in the morning. You know, like, hey, I'm here's my office for the day. And they would be some interesting place, you know, in the world.
Exactly.
And I think that's when I realized this community is interesting and I love it.
Exactly.
You know.
That's what I guess from the Proof Discord was very different from other Discords I was part of, is that you actually just had like normal, genuine conversation. It was not just about like, okay, what's the floor price? What about NFTs and all that? Like, yes, of course, there's some of that sprinkled in that, of course, but it's also, hey guys, like, hello from, I don't know, like, you know, Trey Ratcliffe. He's so, you know, he always, New Zealand, he posted these photos are gorgeous. Yeah.
I know. And I think that's what project founders need to learn now is that you can't short circuit community. And, you know, hype and FOMO is not how you build. You know, that's important at some point, but that's not how you build a community. You build a community small and steady and safe and legit. And then you build on top of that, right? And, you know, I like to remind people, Moonbirds didn't have a public Discord, right? Pre-launch. It still doesn't have a public Discord. You know, it launched essentially, you know, with 1,000 loyal, excited people in Proof who believed in the project, right? And they believed in it because they were already a part of the community. And I think we'll see the Moonbirds playbook repeat. And I think we'll see a lot of good projects that follow it, which is good. And these are the exact kind of projects that we're going to invest in with 121G, exactly that playbook.
Can you tell us a bit more about 121G, since that's like just a nice segue?
Sure. Yeah. So first of all, it stands for 1.21 gigawatts, which is from my favorite movie, Back to the Future. The tagline of the fund is the fund you wish you could go back in time and invest in, which I think is cute.
That's a good tagline.
my wife thought of that, so I'll give her the credit. So it is an NFT focused fund, and we're not buying historical blue chips. So I think there's some great funds that do that. 6529 has a great, blue chip historical art focused fund. There's another one called Curated. I think folks are doing that. And honestly, I don't think I can offer unique value in that. I think either they can do it, or if you're smart, you can buy historical art yourself. It's not worth paying a 2% management fee and a 20% carry, in my opinion. So what we're doing is different. And, I learned a lot being a CEO founder for 20 years. And then I learned even more being the COO of Proof, and I learned even more launching Moonbirds. And I think that gives me a really interesting and unique viewpoint where I can pattern match. And so what we're going to do is deploy most of our capital on new projects. And the way I'm looking at it is, we'll be deploying ideally into about 12 projects in the next 12 months. And I'm going to only buy into projects that have vetted, fully doxed, experienced founders who have built a real community. And then what we're going to do, I'm actually going to interview all these folks. I'm going to have a podcast, and I'm going to vet them, and I'm going to have a real meeting with them. and I'm going to talk to them about their plans and their experience and their ability to, hire effectively and allocate budgets and hit KPIs and do all the things that real founders do, right? And then if they pass our quality bar, then what we're going to do is invest heavily on mint day. And we're going to deploy 600-700 ETH on mint day, and then we're going to hold. And the goal is to support those project founders. I'm going to meet with them every month, and I'm going to ask them, where they're blocked, where I can connect them, what they're struggling with, and then I'm going to hold them accountable to key KPIs, and then we're going to hold those projects. So we're not going to trade and flip. And I'm really excited about that.
Is it a bit like, and pardon me because like I'm not that experienced with like all this angel investing stuff, but like, is it a bit like an angel investing or?
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
It's almost similar to an accelerator where, I'm going to have a very good pipeline because of my connections and the podcast to get deal flow into the podcast and into the fund. And then what will happen is we'll choose the ones that we think are the best bets, and then we'll deploy heavy, ETH into mint day, and then we'll hold, and then we'll support. So the idea is it's almost like we're going to spot good talent and support that talent, ideally for years, right? The fund is a 4-year closed-end fund. And so
that's exciting. In the foreseeable future, do you intend on like making it more accessible to like a broader audience?
Hopefully.
Because I know that like there's also the cap of like 99 investors that you have to.
Yeah. So this is the problem with being legal. You have to follow laws, and the SEC is very serious about these things, and you can only have technically 100 accredited investors in a fund like this. You can have up to 2,000 qualified purchasers, which is a different class of investor. And we may do that, but right now we're just focusing on each fund can have 100 investors. So, I thought 100 ETH might be per investor might be too much, depending where ETH is, that's anywhere from, $300,000 to $400,000. And that's a lot of money for a lot of people. But I also thought, well, I need to raise enough capital, to deploy effectively and get a return. And honestly, I thought maybe I would get 20 investors, and was just blown away. We completely filled the fund in 7 days and raised $40 million.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I've got a big wait list on top of that. So it's like, wow, I'm so honored that, very smart, wealthy investors are entrusting me, to invest for them. And I can't wait.
And that sounds exciting. Is there any way that we could buy in later on? Because I am working on building my thing. I want in at some point.
The cool thing is yes. And so the way it works is it's technically a rolling fund. And so every quarter there is a new fund. But ironically, if I do really well, it'll be harder to get in because there'll only be 100 slots, and then probably the current investors will re-up. But if people attrit out, which they will, then new spots will open. And Martin, I will tell you if one of those spots opens.
Sounds good. you also mentioned learning. You have this ability to pattern match because you've been in so many scenarios that I guess gives you the experience and like the reference to know when this is going well or this is not going well. And if we relate it back to learning, how do you actually learn? Are you like someone that learns from just doing? Are you someone that learns from books? Or are you someone that like loves to listen to podcasts? Maybe a mix of.
I am very visual, so my first choice is video, which is probably why I ended up starting Treehouse. So Treehouse, we taught 600,000 people how to code through video.
That was awesome.
Yeah, so that I love video. It's easy for me to watch and understand and learn. And then I love podcasts. I mean, I just am a voracious podcast listener, and I always listen at 1.5 speed, and it drives my wife crazy. So
people like just sound like chipmunks the whole time.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't care. As long as the information gets in, I don't care. And then I talk. And so I'm a verbal processor. And so I actually talk to myself.
I'm the same.
Really?
Yeah.
I just
like
talk
I'll be in a room like kind of a bit talking out loud to myself to make sense of my thoughts.
Yeah.
Because it's just like they're inside and like I kind of have to articulate them.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad I'm not alone in that. So yeah, I just talk to myself all the time, and I walk around so it helps me to walk and talk to myself. So yeah. And then the next thing I do, I love Gantt charts. So I use Asana for project management because I can use a Gantt chart to lay it out visually and understand all the dependencies and when things need to be done and what effect they have on each other. So, but that's the primary way I learn. The other thing is meeting people and listening to them and absorbing what they have learned. So, some of my favorite questions are, what's something hard that you've learned? What's something you've learned that's changed your life? And just, I'm like a sponge for information.
Mm-hmm. That's probably why you've been such a great host too.
I guess.
Because you ask questions.
Yeah.
You're curious.
Love to listen.
I read on the Treehouse website that at the time you were serious about table tennis.
Yeah, that was a moment in my life. I actually got this hilarious device. What's it called? It's called like a Pong Master or something. And you could put it on the end of the table and RoboPong, and it would fire ping pong balls at you.
Okay.
And so you could, and actually ping pong is a very good sport for exercising. Just so if anyone wants to get super fit, you just have the RoboPong send you volleys to each side of the table, and you have to hustle and build up some good sweat.
Did you see that video of like Bruce Lee playing with ping pong?
There you go.
Yeah. That's how he got fit.
It's a serious sport, people. Don't knock it.
So table tennis, are you into like other sports?
Yes. So I love sailing. So sailing is just so much fun because it's completely analog. It's all about wind and water and, physics. And it's just nothing like, Twitter. So it's just really, and it's all consuming. Like when you're sailing, you just can't like multitask, and I can't be somewhere else. You have to be very present. So
it gets you into a flow state, as they would say.
Yeah. It's a little scary sometimes. So it's challenging. So that's why I love sailing.
Do you find there's a difference between flow states and like meditation itself? Because sometimes, because sitting down and meditating is one thing. You feel calm, you feel grounded. But like the flow aspect of like being in a sport is almost like you don't feel the time passing. You just don't know anything else that's happening around you. Do you feel the same thing about meditation, or is it different?
Yeah. When I started meditating, I remember, you start off at like 2 or 3 minutes and it just feels like forever at first. And then I remember the first time I did 10 minutes and I was thinking, oh my God, 10 minutes is forever. And it kind of was. And then, this morning when I meditated, I was like, wow, I wonder how long that was. And it was like, 11 minutes or something. I'm like, wow, that's fascinating. That's weird. So I think there's similarities, but meditation is just so unique compared to any other activity where you're actually like learning to not think and not achieve. It's very interesting. And I was just hanging out with my friend Logan on a video call today. He essentially manages Tyler Hobbs. And he's a really interesting, amazing person. And he is a very accomplished, I don't know what you call him, meditation person, meditation expert. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. I guess like a guide.
Yeah. And so we ended up talking about some things and he was talking about how, meditation is like a cup of water where, you can take a big drink in the morning, but then it's helpful to sip it the rest of the day. So, having little moments of being present and meditating throughout the day, is just a really great way to be
more in the now.
Yeah. And kind of just being reminded throughout the day. I mean, even now it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to feel my feet touching the ground as we talk. I'm going to be a little bit more present.
Yeah. It's funny. Yeah. Unless you really you're really aware of it, like that doesn't happen.
No, you can, you end up realizing you're never present, like I just realized that, like, where was it? Where am I? Like, I'm here. Like I need to be here, and like feel my desk and focus. And I am focusing, but it's strange how your mind often is never quite where you are.
One thing I was so curious to ask you about is you mentioned again, that I think it was the Foundation podcast with Kevin. You mentioned level ups in the company.
I forgot about that.
So you said like it was kind of like an alternative to boring reviews and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Is that still a way you consider useful to get staff motivated? Or like,
it's funny because I tried so many novel management techniques, and that was one of them. And sometimes novel management techniques are born of naivete, right? You just haven't managed a lot of people before, and there's like a reason why the system exists. So Level Up sort of worked, but it turns out like HR is the way it is for a reason, and you really shouldn't mess with it a whole lot. So no, it didn't work. We also tried a 4-day work week for the whole company. We did that for 10 years actually, and like a true 4-day work week where it wasn't 4 10s, it was 4 8s, and that worked, and it was really interesting. But then that unwound a little bit because we had to push really hard during one season of the company, and I just couldn't get enough energy to do that. We also tried no managers. So we basically ran a DAO. The company was sort of a DAO before anybody knew what a DAO was.
That must have been interesting.
It was fun for like 2 weeks. And then I was like, holy shit, I can't get anything done, and I'm the CEO. I mean, and I know a lot about DAOs, and there's very good aspects to DAOs and there's very bad aspect to DAOs. And I would say, a for-profit company, it just, you really have to know what you're doing. And you probably should end up with delegated voting and all sorts of like mechanics that could make it work. But we did not do that. And it didn't last very long. So
kind of ties into this idea of full decentralization. Like, is that a utopia that people are like looking to reach at some point? But there's always going to be some sort of element of centralization. In my head, like there's no way that like the best decision is always the decision made in a group.
No.
Like sometimes somebody knows way better about like sailing, like you. If I was on like if we were sailing, I'd listen to you and we wouldn't be having a vote. Like, should we be doing this?
Should Martin be the skipper? No, definitely not. I don't think groupthink works, but I don't think that's really what Web3 is about. Web3 is about actually having ownership, And I think when you realize, oh, I can actually own these assets. Like these aren't cute coins from Facebook. These are real assets, and I can take them wherever I want, right? That's the power, right? And tokenizing every asset on Earth is going to change everything. Obviously you know that, and I know that, and probably everybody listening to this knows that. But it was very real the first time I encountered this, which was in Proof, where someone started saying, "I want to start a DAO to buy Proof passes."
Yes, Serpent.
I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't like it, but I can't stop it. And actually, that's the whole point of this. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to get on board and just embrace this. And it was a lot of fun. And, everybody in Proof for DAO has done very well. And it hasn't ruined the community, but the real power was you owned your Proof passes and we did not. And so, Kevin and Justin and I couldn't control that. And we didn't try.
There was actually like this new thing that came out, the mirror of the Proof pass thing.
Oh gosh.
Things like that are going to keep popping up because we're in kind of like a jungle, I guess, like a free for all Wild West, and people are going to come up with ideas and just have to deal with them as they come.
But the funny thing about Mirror, and for everybody listening that doesn't know what that is, like essentially there's tech now that can kind of stream a Discord to another Discord. But anyone who believes in that like is completely missing the point of a community. What makes Proof valuable is the actual people in it. It's not the Discord. That's ridiculous. And so the real value is in the relationships. I mean, why are we doing this podcast? Well, because we're in Proof together and we built a relationship. Why am I interested in things like Rickhouse DAO and why do I care about people in Proof? Because I have a relationship, and you can't stream that. You can't hack that, right?
That's one of the things that I guess when people come into the NFT space, like they're kind of impatient about is building a true community. It's not just like, okay, one project, I have an idea for a 10,000 PFP kind of NFT project. Now I just launch it and I hope for the best, which at the time when it was like a crazy bull market and everybody was buying into anything, that kind of worked, but
not anymore.
But not anymore. And like, it's just not a sustainable way to do it. Even more so, like a community is something you'll have long-term for the rest of your life.
Yep.
You're always going to be able to, I guess, like to grow with that. I talked to my girlfriend who's also an artist. One thing she struggled with is like, should I start with like building my community first and then releasing my art as an NFT? Well, I said like, why not do both? If you can, like actually make content about your process on all these other social channels, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, obviously, but like just start building your community and release little things one by one. One follower is better than zero, and then it's going to build up from there.
Yes, exactly. And you don't need to have a huge community to have a meaningful life. I think you can be very happy and make more than enough money with a community of a couple hundred people, right? You don't need to make millions of dollars. Like it just isn't necessary for human happiness. You need to rise up Maslow's hierarchy to be above the bottom level, and then you can go to the next level, which is, okay, are my needs met? Yes. Okay, now I can go towards actualization, and that doesn't mean more money at that point. That means doing something that you feel is meaningful, that is appreciated by people. And you could do that with a couple hundred people that truly love your art.
I agree. We live in such a special time right now, which is that we can actually do that.
Yeah.
In the past, like 50 years ago, there was no way an artist could actually, build a community of 200, 500 people.
Right.
Now it's possible.
And receive royalties in perpetuity. That's mind blowing, And I think Lucrece is such a good example of an artist who, he's now a big deal, but, for a long time, he had a small community, he delivered a lot of creativity and love and value to that community. And he could have stayed that size and still been very happy and done very well. He's gotten bigger now. But I remember the first time I went into the Monsters Discord, and it was like, oh, this is like a family. Like this is not like just a bunch of people. These are people that when someone comes in Discord, they like ask them questions and they talk to them and everyone's like, who's this new person? And, and, it's just so exciting to see artists actually be able to build wealth.
As a new person, let's say coming into a Discord, that's one thing, but new people coming into the NFT space right now, where should people start, in your opinion? How should they start?
Well, I think
that's a very like loaded question and pretty general, but
it's good.
I hope you can roll with it.
It's a good question. I think what's going to happen is we'll see more projects like VFriends 2 bring people into the space. So what probably will happen is that we're going to have larger brands and larger personalities who have communities, right? Take any TikToker or any YouTuber or any, B-list celebrity or anybody who, is passionate about sewing and has a small group of friends that sew. I think they're going to start to realize, I can actually create a community here. And then what they'll probably do is launch, a higher count project that makes the mint price accessible in the hundreds of dollar range, right? And those folks will probably onboard through, a Coinbase NFT or something that has really easy fiat on ramps. And then they'll buy that first NFT and then it kind of goes up by a little bit. And they're like, whoa, like I actually made like $50 or $100. Like this is kind of cool. And I think that's how it's going to happen. We need to see the UX of wallets get a lot better.
We need to see the Discord get better too.
Yeah, we need to see Discord go away. Discord is a disaster. It really is. It's like unsafe. It's scary. The UX is terrible.
That's also the biggest challenge I had with onboarding new people into NFTs. Right. It's like, make a Discord account and like, they're like, what the hell is this? And then they go in and join this server and they're just like, this is anarchy. It's chaos. I'm never touching this again.
It is. It is anarchy. I mean, it's like, this is terrible. So, this is another reason I'm bullish on Proof. I know that, Kevin and Justin have plans in this space and I think it's good. And so we'll see it mature, and there's other projects like Islands, which is a Discord alternative. And so that'll get better. Wallet UX will get better. On-ramps will get better. Projects will get more accessible for mint price. And then I think where it really takes off is community. I mean, I just think humans, we've evolved to need to be in a tribe. And once you find your tribe and that tribe, creates value, just look at us in Proof. We're a bunch of crazy people. Like, I love Proof. It's probably the community I love the most in the world, right? And we're just a bunch of NFT collectors. So, imagine what's possible.
I remember like specifically being in New York and just being like, this is crazy. Like if you told me that 5 months ago, we would be meeting up with like people we just met on Discord and like chatted together on Twitter Spaces, and it happened. And it was like such a good time. And we were all there for the right reasons, and we just connected.
Yeah. And you knew you'd be included. Like you knew you were a part of something special where, everyone was going to welcome you. I do think that's what's really special about Web3 is the walls, like the political walls, seem to have evolved, like just dissolved. I have no clue what anybody believes politically in Proof, and I don't really care, right? Because we like each other as humans, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's special, and I think it's new, and I love it.
It's really because of people like yourself, like Kevin, like Justin, that built such a, because I do want to give credit to where credit is due. Like, I think not a lot of people know like how much of your time you actually spent in Proof. And I know that Moonbirds wouldn't be nearly what it is today if it wasn't for you.
Oh,
so
thanks.
Like, to be honest, like really props for that. And thank you for like what you do continually. And even thank you for making the time to do this today.
Oh, of course. Yeah. No, I served the Proof community because I wanted to, and I believed in it, and I still believe in it. That's the most beautiful thing about community is you can't fake it. Right. And so the work that I did there as the COO, I did it because I love the community, and I still do. And yes, it worked out, and it was a lot of fun. And it allowed me to launch my fund, and there's a lot of good things I received from that. But, the team very much does love the community and believes in it. So, but thanks for saying that. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. And the cool thing about this space is that it is this space. Like we all bump into each other one way or another. We're all the same people interested in the same things. Like even though you're not the CEO of Proof anymore, I know I'm going to see you at events. Yeah. I know you like we're going to get to hang, and it's going to be awesome.
I know. It's kind of fun as well because it kind of goes to show like the value of owning assets. Like, yes, I'm not an employee anymore. And if in a traditional Web2 sense, like I would lose all my connection.
It's true. Huh? I haven't even thought about that.
And I still own 2 Proof Passes, and I still own my Moonbirds, and I am a part of those communities, even if I'm not the COO. And Kevin and Justin and I are still very good friends, and everything's fine. But if it was a Web2 thing, I would be an ex-employee, and it's like, it's just not like
well, exactly. You wouldn't be really chilling at staff parties.
No. Like, what is he doing here? Right. but no, it's like, oh, wow. Yeah. And we're all still together. It's great. So,
yeah, looking forward to that. And I'm telling you, I'm building up and going to see you in the 121G fund at some point.
All right. I got that spot for you. But meanwhile, looking forward to hanging out in New York.
Yes, sir. Thank you again for taking the time, and see you next time.
Sounds good. Take care.